So what is morphology? Well, morphology is essentially using the building blocks of words. Think of English as a little bit like Lego, when you put different pieces of Lego together to make different structures. And that's the same with morphology and the English language. Imagine when you take Lego, you build different structures with different Lego bricks. And that's more or less what we do when we're building the English language for much of the time. You could have, for instance, the prefix, the root word, and the suffix. The prefix is the bit that goes before the word. The root word is the main part of the word, and the suffix is the part that comes after the word. Let's just give a very simple example. Let's take an example such as joy. Joy is our root word. And you can add a prefix, and so you can have n, and then you can add a suffix, able, enjoyable. Or you could remove the prefix and you could use joyless or joyful. And so this root word stays the same. It stays where it is, but the prefixes and the suffixes move. And so you can change the meaning of the word by moving the prefixes and the suffixes. Now, just a very quick word about why this is important, especially for people with dyslexia. Professor Julia Carroll of Coventry University said that morphology helps students focus on the non-phonological aspects of reading, and that dyslexic students often use morphological strategies in literacy, and that they use morphology in spelling, and this helps them attain their expected reading level. And so Julia Carroll of Coventry University was very keen on saying that morphology can help people with dyslexia use language far better. Schiff and Levy from about 2017, I think, said that morphological instruction is key to helping dyslexic students master spoken and written language. And Abigail Marshall once said that capable dyslexic readers rely on what you call meaning-based morphological processing for word recognition, and that dyslexic brains process this meaning-based morphological information more efficiently than non-dyslexic brains. And so improved reading skills in dyslexia are directly tied to morphological processing skills. And this is why it's key to teach dyslexics English or any kind of language through morphology. So let's have a very quick look at one or two simple examples of morphology in practice. Here's the word dyslexia, where you get the root word lex, and you can get lexis, meaning vocabulary, essentially, or you can get dyslexia or dyslexic. And so you can see how we're playing with the root word, the prefixes, and the suffixes. Here again is joy, and you can see how we're playing with the prefixes and the suffixes. And just another example or two here, and you can see more or less what we're doing. And it's a great way of introducing your students to the structures of language. Because remember, dyslexic students like structure, and they like to see structure. So one of the things you notice that I'm doing here is I'm keeping the structures colourful. Now, if you notice here, I've got some prefixes, root words and suffixes on the board. So let's just have a quick look at how you can do this in a class. So what we've done is we've taken, for instance, some magnetic strips, and you can take them apart and you can put them on the board like that. You can then write on these magnetic strips the root words, the prefixes and the suffixes, and you can play with them like I'm about to do now. So here you can see me adding prefixes and suffixes to the root words in black. Words like spect, where you get spectacles, or inspection here, where you look at something. So spect is about looking at something. Duct is almost like a passage, tear duct. And if you're inducting somebody, you're taking them through a rite of passage, really. If you've been inducted, you've been taken through that passage, that rite of passage. Tract, where you get words like tractor, tractare from the Latin, to drag. If something is retracted, you take it back. If it's protracted, it's elongated, really. Production, again, it's like being taken through a production process. Let's look at this word dyslexic. Lex, about words, negative, difficulties with words. Terrible, terrible word. And when I see it, I feel dejected, as you can see. Of course, inject means to put something into somebody. Deject means to feel like you've had all the life taken out of you. Deflect, deflection, deflected, deflecting. Take away these extra suffixes so they don't confuse us. And again, sorry about the bright light. That was the sunshine, I couldn't help that. Now, if you can't use magnetic strips like this, and if you don't have access to a board, you can always use online versions. And you can find online versions everywhere. Here's one that I found, and here's me playing with an online version. And we see what I'm now doing is I'm now matching the root words to their meanings. And this is a really useful thing to do. So dict is say, dictaphone, or predict, you say something beforehand. Cred, credible, to believe. You are incredulous, you can't believe something. So these are the root words and their meanings. So first of all, we try to match the root words to the meanings, and then once we've done that, we start adding the prefixes. Con, com, usually together. Sub is under, submarine. Pre is before. Ex is out of, ex nihilo, out of nothing. Now you'll notice that some of the negative prefixes, d, dis, miss, these can be confusing. So it might be an idea to play around with them. Which one does this mean? Which one does this mean? So I think that's probably right. And now we're on to the suffixes. And these are usually easier. Able means you're able. Let's try again with the root word graph. Draw or write. Autograph. Autographs, you sign your name. You can have photograph, you can have photographs. You can have photography. Biography. Again, when you're writing about somebody. Geography. Paragraph. How many paragraphs do you write? And this is a little bit more complex, but essentially it's the same thing. So you could be mistrustful. You can be untrusting or untrustworthy, although there isn't the suffix worthy here. Trusted, people trust them. If you've crashed your car, it's in the past, or you could be in the process of crashing. If somebody doesn't change their mind, they might be unbending. And finally, possibly the most complex of them all, still from Wordwall, very good indeed, we've got this word duct again, this passage. All sorts of options I can use with this. And it's really just a lot of fun to play with it, to be honest with you. Abducted, taken away. Reconstructing, reconstructed, reconstruction. Contracting, distracting, you see. So tract is to drag, distracting, dragging someone's attention away. Protract, to drag it out. Now here's a really silly example of morphology in action. I'm going to take 3 coloured pens, a red pen, a black pen and a blue pen. In this case they don't really mean anything, I'm just using them to help show the differences in words. Let's take a really long and complex word. There you go. Anti-disestablishmentarianism. Everybody in English knows that this is a very long word. Whether it exists or not, there may be a hyphen there or it may be a made-up word. But everybody knows about the word anti-disestablishmentarianism. Well, let's just break it down into its constituent parts. So you begin with establish. And this is the base, this is the root of our word. Well, okay, so that which we built things on, you might call it the establishment. Now, like it or not, the establishment in Britain, you could call it the Church of England or the Crown or the government or whatever you want to call it. In France, it might be the Académie Française. Who knows what it is? In Italy, it might be the Catholic Church. But the establishment is that thing which society is built on. Regardless of whether you like that, that's not what I'm interested in here. But the establishment is that thing which society is built on. Now, if you are in favour of the establishment, well, let's think of somebody who is in favour of certain things. A vegetarian is in favour of eating vegetables. A parliamentarian is in favour of parliament. So here we get establishmentarian, somebody who is in favour of the establishment. So let's just look at that. Establishmentarian. But if you're in favour of tearing down the establishment, if you don't like the establishment, well, you might think of yourself as a dis-establishmentarian. You're a dis-establishmentarian. And the general noun for wanting to tear down the establishment is disestablishmentarianism, where we get this word ism, this suffix ism, that shows something is a general noun. But if, of course, you don't like disestablishmentarianism, you might count yourself as somebody who is into anti-disestablishmentarianism. And that's how we build these really long words, using the building blocks of language, using the Lego building blocks of language. And once you can see it like that, you might start off looking at the word anti-disestablishmentarianism and thinking, what on earth does that mean? But as soon as you see it written down, as soon as you break it down into its constituent parts, it becomes a lot clearer. Okay, just for fun, let's do one more. This is, they say, the longest word in the English dictionary. It is, if you look at it, pneumono-ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis. Really long word, really difficult word. What does it mean? Well, again, we can use morphology to help us understand. So let's just break it down into its constituent parts. We begin with the idea of pneumono, from the Greek pneumos, to do with air. You get pneumatic tyres, or you get pneumonia. It means it's difficult to breathe. Pneumatic tyres are tyres with air in them. Pneumatic brakes are the brakes that have air in them. So anything that has pneumos, pneumono, or pneumo in it is something to do with air. Well, okay, now let's have a look at the other parts of the word. Here you have the word micro, meaning very, very, very small. Or you can have microscopic. Microscopic, too small to see. But if it's ultra microscopic, really, really small, so it's even smaller than microscopic, it's ultra microscopic. Well, okay, now let's have a look at this part of the word. So we've got pneumono ultra microscopic. We still don't quite know what the word means, but let's just delve deeper. Silico. Well, we get words like silicon, that which makes up windows, essentially. It's a type of mineral. Okay. Volcano. Well, okay. Volcanoes erupt. And usually when you see a word like coniosis at the end of a word, you can bet your bottom dollar that it's a medical term. So we have this medical term that talks about really small minerals erupting in the lungs. Pneumono ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis is essentially a really bad cough. And so what we know is that dyslexic students may struggle with phonological processing, but they actually process meanings and morphology better than non-dyslexic students. And this means that we've found the key to teaching dyslexics how to write, how to spell, how to read. We know that their reading fluency is faster with morphological understanding. We know that their reading comprehension is greater and deeper with morphological understanding. And we know that dyslexics can spell better if they understand morphology. And actually, I didn't know that I was dyslexic when I was younger, but I couldn't spell. And then I taught myself morphology and my spelling went up. I could suddenly spell. And I didn't understand what was going on. But suddenly we see that from a personal anecdotal perspective, I could spell using morphology. So we know that dyslexics find it easier to read, comprehend, and spell using morphology. We know that dyslexics process morphology better than non-dyslexics, and we know how to teach morphology. The rest, as they say, is up to you.